to your point, I think it's all about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Like, we are supposed to be uncomfortable.
Welcome back to today's episode of Pushing the Pen. I'm so excited, and I say that every episode, but the excitement continues to grow for our guest today, a Baltimore native and your not-so-average brand strategist, Aaliyah Taylor.
Hi.
How are you?
Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for coming. I'm so excited for our conversation. Yeah. You know, we were ready to film the moment we
talked.
We were ready to jump into it. So how are you doing today? How are you feeling?
That's such a great question. I'm feeling at peace. Number one, I love the prayer before we started. I feel very grounded.
Yeah.
Feel at home. It's a good space, good energy. So I'm feeling pretty good. How about you?
Thank you. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I've been on a go stint.
Yeah.
But every time I film and every time I sit, it just fills me up.
Yeah, you're working.
I'm working. I was at the Can We Talk event yesterday, the symposium.
Ooh.
It was so good.
You liked it?
It was so good. So just from there to come here, it's just such a fulfilling moment, conversation, insight that you get. So I'm just ready, for us to get into it.
Yeah, share the love. Share the love.
Yes. Okay. So you didn't start as a creative strategist or brand strategist. So tell me a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Well, if we want to talk about starts, I started as a nursing major.
Okay.
I thought I was going to be a nurse.
Okay.
That obviously did not last, didn't work. And then I pivoted. I got my start really from entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And I started by owning beauty bars, Unruly Beauty in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I transitioned it into an event space, a photo-friendly event space. Mm-hmm. And we started taking on events. And I'm a strong believer that God will tell you what you're supposed to do. So taking on events, it got me into the brand strategy, creative strategist space because, my goal was really just to do an event space and sell the real estate over and over again, right? And you're looking at money, but purpose will find you. And when people were throwing events, they started asking questions like, how do we make this bigger? How do we make this better? And I found myself always working with really business owners. Yeah. And they were launching a product or a service or a brunch or a podcast. And then from there, you need the innovation and you need the ideas behind it. And that's when I fell in love with strategy. But the funny part is I was doing it all along because in business, what do you need? You need strategy, you need branding, you need to know how to make people feel something.
Yeah. So I want to go back because you just said it so quickly. You just skated over it. You said you were looking for money, but purpose will find you.
Yeah.
That is good. Purpose will find you.
Yeah.
And you were open to it finding you and kind of going with that flow, leaning into it.
Or absolutely not.
Okay, I was about to say, did you?
Absolutely not. No. I was not open to it, to answer your question, because I am a person, like a lot of us, I feel like, who is very much in my control. So I have this 5-year plan. I have this 10-year plan, so this is not the plan.
Yeah.
But God will give you things in life that forces you to surrender, So for instance, with the beauty bar, I noticed that a lot of what I was doing was trading time for money. When you offer a beauty service, you have to be the one in that behind that chair providing that service. And even though I had employees and other people in the salon, the model to me just wasn't scalable enough for where I wanted to be. So the goal, we're being honest, was money. And that's when the event space came about. And I'm like, okay, I can have one piece of real estate and sell this over and over and over again. Great. But in order to get people to buy into that, they start asking questions. Well, how do I do this? How do I execute this? And then you find yourself kind of selling an experience. And that's what I mean by God will tell you what you're supposed to do. Because if people keep coming to you for something, you got to listen to that. But was I open to it? Absolutely not. I'm not going to lie to you, no.
You just said two things. I'm getting caught up in what you're saying. But purpose will find you.
Yeah.
And as you're leaning into the purpose, you're listening, you're having to kind of be obedient no matter how, like, I want to say, I don't want to say defiant, but how you're maybe like very hesitant to like really like jumping into it. So how did you navigate your yes, like saying yes to God in that moment where, yeah, because he'll continuously bring something to you, but it doesn't always mean that we listen.
Yeah.
So what was that point of surrender and yes for you, and what did that look and even feel like? Especially if you're coming from like a place where you used to like hold tight for control.
Yeah.
And then you had to like let go, and not only let go, but say yes to something unknown.
Such a good question. Such a good question. You know, I'm still learning how to surrender, if I'm being honest with you. I'm still learning how to surrender. With me, I've always been I need to touch the stove to know it's hot type of person. And God, I feel like, teaches me my lessons that way. Because we're all his children, right? So he already knows how we operate. So he's gonna come to you and serve you and give you the message the way you need to receive it.
Yeah.
So I have always been a person where I need to go through the fire. So I'll end up in situations where it's like I'm in a tunnel and I came too far to go back.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's forward.
Yeah.
But I gotta figure it out.
Yeah.
And that is where I find God constantly keeps putting me. And it's like, now you gotta listen. Because you don't know where to go. It's dark back there. We can't turn back. We gotta go this way. So I say all that to say I'm hard-headed.
Yeah.
and God has to slap me in my face with it sometimes.
Yeah.
But I lean into it now by feeling like this life, what we're in, business, it's all spiritual warfare, right? So we're in the gym of life is how I like to think about my challenges. So I don't like it, but the more I do it, and when I show up, especially when I don't want to be here, that's when I'm building the muscle. That's when I'm building the endurance. I'm building my heart posture with God to say, okay, let me listen. And now I find myself, I'll sit, if things aren't working according to plan, I'll sit and I'll be like, okay, God, what are you trying to tell me?
Yeah.
Instead of, what am I trying to tell you?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still in it.
Yeah.
I'm still in it, but just pay attention to what is unfolding in front of you, I would say.
And what I just heard too was, while you're in that tunnel, sometimes we walk directions that God did not tell us to walk.
Yeah.
And when we're in the vulnerable space is when we're most susceptible to lean on him. You know, because when we feel like we can do it all and we feel like, okay, I kind of got a hang of it. It's then when we're like, okay, I'm gonna let go of your hand and
I'm good to
walk
go.
it out, right?
Yeah.
But then
and you ain't good,
right? And so in the vulnerability, we find our strength in him. So that's such a beautiful thing, and that also leads me to, in your newsletter, y'all, her newsletter, so dope.
Oh, thank you.
Your storytelling, like, and again, your vulnerability there. You know, you share your ups and downs, your lessons, and, you know, with strangers, basically, with the community. So I'm going to ask this question, but then I have a second question on that. But in your newsletter, you said, the question isn't whether I'll rise again, but how brightly will I shine? So life is full of twists and turns. Entrepreneurship has its ups and downs. Corporate America can also be frustrating. When we find ourselves in these challenges, how can we look forward to how brightly we will shine on the other side of what we have to overcome?
How can we look forward to it?
Yeah. Like, sometimes it's like we hear the saying, like, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So we know, like, it's there. We know joy will come in the morning. We know it's there. But sometimes our current posture does not reflect what we know to be true.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how, in your experience, have you been able to look forward with expectancy for how bright the other side is, how bright you will come out? Especially, you just spoke on being refined. You know, when you're, you know, in that place.
It's really, for me, about deep awareness in that space. Our human nature and our tendency is to run when we're uncomfortable, right? Instead of sitting in it and trying to say, okay, what is the lesson? what is the purpose, or what am I supposed to receive here?
Yeah.
So a big way that I look forward to the blessings to come, or what God is to give me, I'm learning to enjoy the journey. Like, stop looking at the destination, because you'll miss it. You'll miss it. So it's the little things. It's the people that you call when you're having a bad day and they'll make you laugh.
Yeah.
You know, like, it is your sister reminding you who you are when you forget. It is your best friend. Like, you have to look at everything around you. I'm already blessed. I'm already here. And I think once we get our mind off of arriving all the time and hustling and getting to the thing,
Yes.
then we'll start to look forward and find the joy in today, which will give us the joy that we need to get to tomorrow.
Yes. I literally just said, well, Charger just told me this yesterday, and then it's been affirmed just like the last 48 hours for me, and I said it this morning, like, I lack nothing.
Yeah.
Like we truly lack nothing. All needs met, all skill sets acquired. And if we don't have it if we don't have it in the immediate, God is going to put us in a situation where it's acquired. It's going. We get it. Like, and I think moving through life, also just remembering, like, we lack nothing.
And reminding
nothing.
yourself of that all the time, because it's easy
You
to
have
say
to,
when things are good, right?
Yeah.
And it's like when it's bad, you have to think like that. You have to feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also just speaking over ourselves in two different ways. One, because sometimes, like, when we receive the blessing, we're like, God is good.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God,
all the time.
But then there's the posture of saying, like, God is good.
Yeah.
And it's the reminder and knowing, because you're speaking over the future of knowing, like, God is good. And that all the time is past, present, and future.
Yeah.
And so almost like as encouragement to yourself. So even with saying, like, I lack nothing, like, if my bank account at $10, it's like, I lack nothing, because that $10 is going to get me to the next check.
And I'm so glad you said that, because it's like, you have to know that God is good in your mess. You know what I mean? Like, when we are brokenhearted, when everything is not going according to plan, when we're in the dark, God is good.
Yeah.
That is when that comes into play. You know, like, I don't know about you, but I was raised in a church, and I used to look around like, all these sayings and these people crying, I don't get it. And then you grow up and you're like, oh, this is where it applies. This is where I needed that. God is good, not just on the good day where I don't need to tell myself that. He's good on the bad day. When I log in and my bank account is a negative, or I get the rejection letter, or that's when I gotta say, God is good, and feel that. So I'm so glad you said it. Like, when you're on 0, God is good. Because when you're on 10, you know, it's a good day to be on 10.
No, seriously. But also 0 isn't 0.
Yes.
And I think too, in everything that we do, I realized a few years ago how important perspective plays a role. How we view our circumstances, relationships, career choices, careers, whatever it is we're doing, it shifts our posture. It motivates us on what the next thing is, or what we will or won't do. And when I'm at 0, I'm still on 1,000. I'm still full. I'm still loved. I'm still approved by God. So it's just also that perspective that really comes into play. And I think being an entrepreneur or making a pivot, it really takes the fortitude of being able to take control of your mind and your perspective and your thoughts, and say, well, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to keep it here, because I'm having faith in where God's taking me, or what's the next thing. So I'm sure you've had to really, like, hold tight to a particular perspective, because too far left and then you're going too far gone.
Yeah. And you gotta, you know, like, to your point, I think it's all about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Like, we are supposed to be uncomfortable. Change, transition, you're not supposed to want it. You know, it's not supposed to be cushy. And I think we forget that, and we say, well, God, you have left me. God, you have forsaken me. You know, where are you? That's our question. Where are you? And it's like, I'm in your mess. That is, anything that anyone has ever gone through, the challenges is what you're like. You look back on and you're like, oh, this got me here. If I would have never got heartbroken by you, or told no by you, I wouldn't have gotten here. So it's in your mess. Yeah.
Yeah. And not everything that we want is what we need. It's not for us. We want,
Yeah.
and oftentimes, and I feel like it's been more of a conversation as of late, but if we would have gotten it when we wanted it, we would have fumbled it.
Yeah.
We would not have fostered it well. We would not have scaled it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We wouldn't have been able to nurture that thing that we also deeply want.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's understanding that I don't have, like, who am I to say that the timing is right?
Yeah.
Like, just because I want it, who am I? Like, sometimes you gotta be like, I know I am, but like, why is my say go? Like, you know?
And it's so funny that you said that. I've been praying a prayer recently, and every time I pray it, I pinch myself because, you know, they say God laughs when we make plans. But I've been praying, God, don't give me anything before I'm ready, no matter how bad I want it. And that has been so hard for me to pray because I'm such a goal person. I see it and I go for that. And we have to do our work in this world and what we can. But it's like you said, we will lose it. We will fumble it if we get it before it's time.
Yeah.
And that is why I put out the newsletter to show people, like, let me show you the fumbles.
Yeah.
Let me show you the failures so you don't just see the successes. Because right now we're in an era, in a world where everything looks great. Everyone's sharing their best moments. And I think that's wonderful. But it sells a false narrative about where resilience is built, where your spirituality is built, like your heart posture. See the struggles.
Yeah.
And I think if more of us did that, we would have better community. We would be more honest, more transparent, like less depression and anxiety, less comparison, because we're all going through our own storms.
Yeah.
We just make it look good.
No, absolutely. And I think too, there, like, judgment is running rampant.
Yeah.
Because there are people who share their truth. We see it with a lot of celebrities, but we're like, why are they still talking about it? Why are they doing these things? And we don't like to see those things. But if that's one, who they are and where they're at, and if that's what they feel the need to share in the moment, we could be annoyed at it or irritated or feel like it's TMI.
Yeah.
But we can't have it both ways, where we're tired of just seeing the best of people, but we don't want the ugliness. We don't want to see how annoying they are.
Yeah.
We don't want to see how, like, oh, this celebrity is lame. Like, they corny. Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, we don't want to see that.
Yeah.
But it's like, you can't, you know?
Yeah. And you know what? That's such a good point. We live in an era where it's easy to judge. Everything is out there for you to see. And recently I was talking to my spiritual advisor, and I was a judger. I was a harsh judger. But it took the awareness to learn that I judge people harshly because I judge myself harshly.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we're just projecting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We come from different traumas and different situations where we don't have grace with people because we don't have grace with ourselves.
Yeah.
And I learned that. And that is something that I had to be like, you know, you got to sit back on your judgments or what you say you would never do. And a lot of times we're not in that position. Until you wake up in that person's position, you don't know.
Yeah.
And we have to extend grace to people that they can have multiple rebirths, they can change. And it's hard, but I think the moment that you give yourself grace with yourself, you can start looking around like, okay, I can do better with other people.
Yeah.
They make mistakes, they get back up.
Absolutely. What's kind of helped me with that is just a very simple statement of, like, it was given to me first. Grace was given to me first.
Yeah.
Forgiveness was given to me first. Mercy was
That's a good one. I like this one.
First.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah.
You know, it kind of, again, treat people how you want to be treated. How can I want something that I'm not willing to give somebody else?
Yeah.
When I know I haven't always shown up as the kindest, like, best version of myself, you know? And I know that's what we all want to be the best version of ourselves when we meet people and we come across and things like that. But if you piss me off or, like, you just did something that I don't agree with.
Catch you on a bad day.
Sometimes I'm just like, oh, I actually can't rock with you.
Like,
Sometimes I get in this mood where it's just like, actually, that isn't aligned with my morals. So I can't even understand. So and that whole mood just turns. But it's like, I've had to learn and work through that. And I'll be like, God, actually, I don't I don't want to dislike somebody.
Yeah,
Like, I don't like
yeah.
that feeling. I don't want to show up this way. This doesn't represent me.
Yeah.
You know, I operate with personal core values, and so I like to navigate through things with those top of mind. If I want to navigate with generosity, with gentleness, with kindness, with patience, like those things are going to be tested, but those values in action are how we push through the situation at hand. And I think that's really the tough, thing to do. As a business owner, at the time when you own either the beauty bars or the event space, did you have, personal values that you were operating with within your business? We know that a lot of times businesses will have like core values or a mission statement or a vision statement, but what was your like North Star as a business owner?
Such a great question, Brooke. Such a great question. Honestly, unreasonable hospitality has always been my thing. Like coming in and making people feel warm and catered to. That's always been my North Star. I've always wanted to make people feel something and to feel something positive. And starting in the beauty space, number one, I grew up in a family surrounded by women, right? So like I remember hair salon culture where you spend all Saturday in the hair salon and they'll bring the food through and I got clothes, I got jewelry, but people were talking and laughing in this community. And as we've grown into kind of like this salon suite culture that is evaporating the community of what the salon used to be. But that was always my North Star. Like, I want people to feel something.
Yeah.
All the best experiences in my life, whether I'm visiting a resort or a different location, it's like it made me feel something. A great restaurant, you felt something. So hospitality in all of my businesses have always been my North Star. What can I do? And it doesn't have to be a lot of things. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very big on hone in and focus on 2 to 3 things that you want to do really, really well and excel at them. But hospitality has always been at the center. If I can make you feel something, you'll remember it. You'll come back to it.
Yeah. I love that. I actually majored in hospitality in
Did
college.
you?
Yes. And I was in the hotel industry for a few years. So I agree. And I was on the food and beverage side. And one of the things, like they had us like do our own personal like mission statements. And mine was like something of like, I cultivate unique and quality experiences.
I love that. I love that.
And so I understand. And I love, like, I chose food and beverage specifically because of the power food has to like change your bad day to good or make your good day bad, because sometimes it's like that. But I understand how experiences really shape people's days, make people feel seen. And I think it is one of those like underestimated qualities in business and service. So when you even talk about the shift in salon culture, I actually have a question somewhere, but basically it's how people want to be entrepreneurs, people want to be business owners, people want to be self-employed, but they miss the leadership. They miss the fostering community. They're missing how to actually build a team and just be a great leader, be a great individual who owns a business. And so what are some things from what you've seen being an entrepreneur, like word of advice that you would give people when it comes to, okay, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be a business owner, but don't miss out on what you have to cultivate here, or where you have to still, curate this really great experience for not only your guests, but, for the legacy that you're actually building for yourself?
Such a good question. I got a lot of things I could say on that. But really, I would say I've been the ego-driven leader. I'm a good leader now because I've been a bad one. Put it like that. But I think what we skip a lot of times is entrepreneurs, especially people of color. We want to be in charge so bad. But to be in charge, if I could give any advice, you need to learn every aspect of your business.
Yes.
I mean, what is the janitor and the cleaning crew doing? What is the staff doing? You know, how do my customers feel when they walk in?
Yeah.
My advice to anyone would be learn every level from the ground up of your business, because then not only are you barking orders, but you understand what people have to go through to produce the result that you want.
Absolutely.
And we don't understand that a lot of times. We want to be the honcho. You do this, you do that. This is not getting done. But when you put yourself in a position to actually perform the task that you're telling people, you can say, oh, this needs to be iterated better. This doesn't make sense.
There's a gap here.
Yeah, I'm missing the work-life balance that I should give this person. And then you learn grace because you've done it. But when you bounce too high in business, and I think that's happening a lot in culture, because sometimes you just hit the jackpot and you're here. And that's beautiful, but you miss the steps and the levels of emotional intelligence, of understanding teamwork, community. Our job as leaders, period, is hire people smarter than you and listen to them. We want to give advice and shoot orders. Really building a great team, building a great company is hiring great people, taking their feedback and making something great. Collaboration.
Yep.
All hands on deck. But I can say this now because I've been a bad leader. I've been an ego-driven person where I haven't listened to my team. I was we gonna get this done. This is a military ship. You on it or you off it. And was it efficient? Yes. But was it good for morale? No.
Yeah.
Was it character building? No. Was it a good culture? No. Then when I learned, now I can build a good culture. And you'll show up better because you want to be here. You want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
A players love to work with A players.
Yeah. And what I heard too is compassion.
Yeah.
You have to have compassion for the people you're working alongside, working for you, and you work for.
Yeah.
What you just shared too just reminded me of, so when I worked at a hotel, I worked at a really big organization, and I came in 22 as an assistant restaurant manager. And it was a convention style hotel.
Yeah.
So really big restaurant.
Such a good job for 22.
I know.
So you got a lot early too.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
In over my head, I was managing people from 18 years old to 60. Bar, coffee shop, restaurant, like restroom, like party area, lounge, all in the restaurant. It taught me, even if you do a good job, even if you're kind, you're not guaranteed respect.
Yeah.
That's for one. And it showed me, that was where also one of my favorite realizations came from. You can learn from everyone.
Yeah.
Young, old, new, it doesn't matter. You can learn from everyone. But when I got there, I made it a point to work every station. The bar back is out, I got you. The bartender called out, then I got you. Also, as a manager, you're forced to. There is no, we'll just shut this station down for the day.
It's your problem.
You know? And so you take that on. And was it frustrating? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was it exhausting? Absolutely. But that was probably the toughest year and a half that I ever had, just because of those challenges. And you're working with so many personalities, and everybody has a different quirk or a different need. And sometimes it doesn't matter how well you show up for the individual. And I had to realize too, some people are committed to being unhappy and unsatisfied too. And I think that was also really tough, because at 22, I'm like, you're making a choice though. You're complaining that you hate it here, but you can hit the door. You can actually roll out. But there's something that's making you stay, and you're really dissatisfied with this one process. So let me change the process for you.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is missing?
Yeah. And I think that's such a beautiful point that you're pointing out too. And I'm sorry, now I'm interviewing you, but did you know what you were doing at that time? When you were stepping into those roles, did you realize what you were doing? Or after you got out of it, did you say, oh, that was the lesson?
Oh, it was a little bit of both. When I first started, they sell you a dream. Just know this company, they pulled out the works to even get me there. They sold me a dream. The first week was amazing, and as I continued to work, like how it started was I started doing the AM shift,
Yeah.
and then later on I moved to PM. So AM shift was like 5 a.m. to 3.
Okay.
And so you start there. So I'm there for basically coffee shop, breakfast, and lunch. And unfortunately, like the older people mainly work that shift.
Yeah.
So they're stuck in their ways. Like they feel like you already useless. Like, you know.
You're
And
young, you don't know about nothing.
Yeah. Like they feel like you're coming in with no previous experience.
Yeah.
Like what makes you qualified when I've been here for 10 years? Because in hospitality, specifically hotels, it is not foreign for people to have careers there for 20 years. Like the benefits be going off. Them free hotel stays, them discounts.
We love
like,
it here.
You know what I mean? But so it wasn't a lesson that I inherently, like, immediately realized I was learning.
Yeah.
And as it continued, I'll say, like, I actually hit like the rock bottom of it. I experienced like work trauma. So by the time I left, I had like PTSD.
Yeah.
But through it all, like as I was going through it, and I had to really kind of you had to see that, oh, they don't want to help themselves, you know? And I always tell people that time, you know, I spent 4 years at Morgan. And then the extra year working out in Baltimore. And this is not all people out there, but some individuals, they rather complain, they rather stay where they're at, and it doesn't help the culture, it doesn't help morale, especially when other team members are looking up to that individual. So it really makes it really hard and strenuous on what you're trying to implement, on what you're trying to do. So I make the changes, but then they're not good enough. But then you're upset at the other manager, but I can't necessarily help that part of it. And so also just kind of learning, like, I can only control what I can control. And when I'm here, I got you guys. When I'm not here, I'm sorry. But when I'm here, I see you, I got you, I can help you. But that's all that I can offer.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to another lesson, right? Like really getting to know your people and your team and your players, because how you communicate or how you reach different individuals on your team is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different learning style. Everyone has different desires, right? So to your point, when you're dealing with all these different personalities, especially older, I think the younger generation to the older generation dynamic is so interesting.
Yeah.
Because it is like, to a point, I feel like sometimes the older generation has a lack of respect for the young. Why are you here? Right? And we also look like we're bringing in fresh blood, new ideas. But also it's a lot that we can learn from that space too. So it has to be mutual respect. But you don't know that until you sit down and you talk to people on a human level.
Yeah.
Because I can relate to that. I had employees too who were I wasn't 21, I was just old enough to buy a drink. And I remember my oldest employee was 52. She had a son older than me. Her son was 25, right? So it's like, you got to sit down and really get to, how can I serve you before I ask you to serve me?
Yes.
And this is why God is so beautiful, though, because that's the question we always ask God, give us, you know what I mean? But we should be asking, how can I serve you? So I'll get the things that I want in serving you.
Yeah.
But we have to do that with people first on a human level.
Yeah.
And that's where compassion comes in. So I love that.
Yeah.
Because I know you went through the works.
Yeah.
But look at you now.
Like after that, I took 4 months off of work. I was like, no job.
I need a mental break.
No job, no backup plan. Like I'm in a place where I moved back home and I was like, girl, hold me down for a second because I just need to get my life together. But also, you just rounded it out and brought me back to the North Star question, because it's interesting that you said for you it's hospitality and that experience, and for me my North Star is service.
Love that.
It's how can I be of service to you?
Yeah.
It's, you know, even what we're doing today, it's like I want it to reach people, to serve them and where they're at in their life, encourage them, take something away, you know. And I feel like people undervalue what it means to be of service.
Yeah.
Because to your point, people, want to be in charge. They want ownership. They want to be the leader. They want to be in the front. But sometimes it's okay to be the whisper that gets things moving. It's okay to be the catalyst that really shakes things up. And I think those spaces and places are very undervalued and overshadowed because of who's getting the glory. And it's like people have to, I think, come to terms with what is it that you really want, because what's really driving you. And if you're motivated by the wrong thing, sometimes you will not be in your purpose until you sit down and you stop making it about you and making it about others people. I feel like that's when your life becomes purposeful and more intentional, because we walk out our purpose every day.
And in finding your purpose and being intentional about it, it's a lot of ego work, because we're very much in our ego. We're very, very, very in our ego. So we have to learn to your point, step back and figure out how to serve people. But that's hard when you're a person who, I always say, don't look for the applause or the boos from the stands. Because if you're looking for applause, the day you don't get it, you're going to be crushed. And if you listen to the boos, you'll never move forward. So it's like you have to dismantle that ego, that recognition of the world serving me. And it's hard. Absolutely. It's hard, but we're not going to find purpose until we do that part.
Yes, 100%. I want to talk about a little bit about betting on yourself and self-confidence.
Okay. I might know a little about that.
Yeah, because I feel like you had to take a leap of faith when you decided, one, I'm going to leave the beauty bar space, the beauty space. I'm going to jump into the event space. Okay, I'm going to go from event space to this dynamic creative brand strategist and really build that out. Your website's amazing. Very unique.
Thank you.
And I feel like you also have this very distinct creative DNA from the newsletter, from the website, and my mind is personally blown. And so I kind of want to know about, what that was like, betting on yourself, taking that risk. And then I'm interested to know a little bit more about like how you even leaned into your creativity after that.
Number one, I graciously received that compliment. Thank you. Okay, you asked me a two-parter. The first part is, how did I pivot or?
Pivot and just kind of like bet on yourself. Because it's one thing to be like, okay, I'm going to change lanes, but then you have to have that faith and bet like I'm going all in, or like were you 1 foot in, 1 foot out?
How did I pivot and bet on myself? I really want to I'm pausing, I'm sorry. I really want to give you a very transparent answer. I just lean into the best way I can put it, because God is my creative director, right? So God gives me visions. God gives me downloads. He gives all of us visions. He gives all of us downloads. We can choose to cash them in and dive into them, or we can run from them. And I told you I've always been a touch the fire type of person. So God is very clear in my life. He will make me very uncomfortable. And I just have a spirit where I can't sit in that. So even though I don't want to go through this, I got to go through it. So to your point, anytime I felt those things, and I'll feel them again, I call them multiple rebirths in life, I lean in. And we're so scared to lean in. But either way, we're going to have to go through it. You know what I mean? And that's how I look at life. I can run from this and have to face it again, or I can go through this. Because people look at it and they say, oh, you pivot so well and you do this. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I have to do that. It's and we all we all have to do it. But I lean into it and I make my vulnerability known. And I think so many of us run from that, but I got to be authentic in what I do. So I don't want you to look at me like I am a superhero. I want you to know that I have no cape, that it's all God, that it's not me. And that's how I'm able to the DNA that you speak of and the website and the newsletter, that's how I do that. Because God tells me, show people this. And I'm like, do you want them to see this, God, this part? Show people this. And it's so funny because that's the reason I'm here talking to you, or that's what I'm rewarded for, right? But that's the part that we run from.
Yeah.
But to pivot, you have to lean in. You can't run from that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. So a little bit on building self-confidence, and I think like being in a pivot or walking into uncertainty and something unknown, it can almost make us, I know for me, especially in pivoting to where in the space I'm currently in, I've kind of come up against like, I feel like I'm not qualified, but I know that He's provided me with so many opportunities to equip me, and even still, He's just given me so much vision, just that I've received downloads, you know what I mean? But sometimes I find myself struggling with my self-confidence in those spaces and being able to show up. And I feel like being a decision maker in our own lives can require a certain level of self-confidence. And it's crucial because we have to walk as who God has told us we are. So what would you say to that? Or like, have you had any like similar experience in that?
Oh, I often feel underqualified. Even just this morning, I was talking to my sister and I'm like, I feel unqualified to sit in this chair. To speak to what? You know what I'm saying? But I think that is a gift. It's a beauty in that too. If we don't go too far left in the imposter syndrome and, oh, why me and I shouldn't do this, why not you? Why can't you do this? I've given you everything you needed. But you got to look at the blessings and the failures the same way, right? Because we'll look at the failures and we'll be like, oh, God, why me? Why not you? So I feel like being underqualified is your best strength. Because you got everything you need. And it makes you tap into your resources, right? And God uses the underqualified. So the way I handle that situation is I lean into it. I own being unqualified. I speak to that space. And it allows you to show up authentically. Because sometimes when we think we got it all together is when it all falls apart. So just be authentic. Be true to yourself. Show up even when you feel like you're not qualified for the job. Into the room, into the chat, drop the business. Do it. And let people see you iterate when you do it. I feel like that builds your confidence too, right? Because sometimes we'll hold something so close and we have to make it perfect. When putting it out and iterating it, that's the fun. And now that's how we're building a community. People are following this journey. The same way with this podcast, they're going to see you do episode 1, episode 2. You get better and iterate every time. Let them see it. You got to let it go. We can't hold it so close. So that's what I would say.
I love that. All right, guys, it's time for passing the pen. So this is the portion where I give you a listener question. And you're going to give them some advice, some insight. And I already have a feeling it's going to be good. Hi, Brooklyn. I often struggle with negative self-talk and false narratives that hold me back from taking action. How can I change these internal stories and build a more positive and action-oriented mindset?
Whew, that is a loaded question. I've been there. And I would say first things first, discover the root of where it's coming from. A lot of times the criticisms in our mind, they're not us. They're childhood traumas, a teacher who told us we couldn't, a counselor who said we wouldn't make it. So let's get to the root. Who am I hearing? Because it's not me. Identify that first. And I think when we can identify that and say, oh, this is where that came from, then you can stop it in its tracks. Once I identified my criticism and who it came from, Now, not that it never resurfaces, but now I can say, that's not me.
Yeah.
It's not me talking.
Yeah.
We can do this. I can do all things through God.
Mm-hmm.
So identify the root, and a lot of times, if I can point you in any direction, take it back to childhood.
Yeah.
That's where it came from.
Yeah.
Identify the voice, name it, so when you hear it, you can pick it out in the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not me. That's somebody from the bleachers giving their opinion.
That we ain't asked for.
We ain't asked for it. Yeah. That's how I would confront that. And then start affirming yourself. I can do this. And ask yourself, my favorite thing is, what's the worst thing that can happen? Mm-hmm. What does failure really look like? That's what I say to myself. If I go for this, if I leave the event space and go for a brand strategy, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't get hired, but I try. Mm-hmm. I put it out there. Mm-hmm. People see me trying. Mm-hmm. It might lead to the thing that I'm supposed to get to anyway. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if I don't do it, I'll always wonder, what if? I'll stay here. I'll belittle myself.
Yeah.
I'll play small for the world. Nah, that's a worse option.
Yeah.
So I think if we really lay our fears out, we learn that fear, I read this quote in a newsletter. A beautiful woman named Jade writes a great newsletter. And she said, fear is a mile long, but only an inch deep.
Ooh.
So when we're thinking about it or we're doubting ourselves, it's a mile long, but if you actually step in, you actually do the thing that you're scared of, you'd be like,
it's like shallow
this is
water.
so shallow.
Like,
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
What was I scared of? Mm-hmm. You gotta reframe.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So, what 3 songs would you say describe your journey thus far?
Why would you do this to me? I love music too much for this. 3 songs to describe my journey this far.
Yeah.
Okay. We gotta start with Nipsey. Mm-hmm. We gotta start with Nipsey. I really wish I could say the whole Victory Lap album.
I know.
But I'll just take Victory Lap, the song.
Okay.
That's my first one. How would you do this to me?
I know this always stumps people. I don't even know what my answer would be.
Bill Withers' Lovely Day.
Ooh.
Because I have to always remind myself. Yeah, when I wake up in the morning, love. Yeah.
Just imagine, like, in a movie, cue that song come on, blinds coming up.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Here for it, right? We're in a great mood.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you got to make your days good. Mm-hmm. You have to be intentional about making your days good. That's why I love that song.
It's a choice.
It's a choice. So that one. And then I would say Lauryn Hill. Ooh. Doo-wop, that thing. Mm-hmm. And just as a woman, and a woman of color too, I think we think so much about going into spaces. Yeah. How do I look? Will I be over-sexualized? Mm-hmm. Am I tough? Do I have enough masculine energy to be here? Am I showing enough feminine energy to be here? Mm-hmm. Whether it is in career and dating, it's so many questions. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that message in that song to just, who are you? Mm-hmm. Stick to who you are. Mm-hmm. Especially in a world that's telling us what we should look like or what we should expose. Who do I want to be? Yeah. So those would be my 3.
I love those.
Thank you. I might change them soon, but those would be my 3 for today.
Let me know. Let me know what you change them to. Last question is, how are you pushing the pen? It could be in your life, in your career. You let us know.
How am I pushing the pen?
Yeah, that unique thing that you do, that you bring. Because I feel like I could tell you what you bring. I don't know.
You could tell me what I bring?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear it. Okay, can I tell you my answer and then you tell me your answer?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say my unique thing that I bring is my vulnerability.
I was going to say that.
I
was going to say that. I got so excited because that's really what I was going to say.
Were you?
I promise.
Okay, so we're on the money.
Yes.
Okay.
Why would you say it? I already said it earlier, like the newsletters, y'all, please We about to tell you where you can find
You're
them.
gonna be all in my business. All in my business.
Because again, like, to be able to write the way you write, you come from a very sincere place, and that place has to come from an openness to be vulnerable, and that's what you share in your newsletter. I think when we had our first call, I don't know, it just felt familiar. It felt open, like
Very
we were
cosmic.
both, very, and I think that's because your vulnerability allows for safe spaces to almost be ignited instantly, And I just think that's so beautiful. But I just feel like, if I wanted to overshare, it would be okay.
This is a safe space. You're safe here.
I'm already telling you I had work PTSD a few years ago. So I just think,
Thank you.
And I think too many times, I'm gonna wrap up, you guys. Too many times, we hear vulnerability and we think of it as a con. We think of it as something negative. We think of it as a deficit instead of how it aids us. And there's so much strength in being vulnerable because there's ownership there.
Yeah.
You cannot put on me something that I haven't already accepted, lived in, embraced, and came on the other side of.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it.
Thank you so much for saying that, because let me tell you, I did not want to put that newsletter out. That was God. That was actually my diary. I was journaling. My spiritual advisor made me journal, and I just was typing and writing and typing and writing. And one day God woke me up out of my sleep, 4 a.m., and I kept hearing, put it out, put it out. And I went back to sleep because you ain't talking to me, God. This is my personal business. Right. I'm not putting this out. But in this is so a full circle moment in all that we talked about and facing the fear, I've received so many beautiful testimonials from people that say, I needed that. I needed to see it. I needed to see somebody fall and get back up. Yeah, and it's not for us. So I appreciate that it's received well, because that was a fear.
Yeah.
And now you just made me realize it was a puddle.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're
Thank you for that.
All right, so tell everybody where they could find you.
You can find me at www.highaaliyah.com. You can subscribe to my newsletter, Dress Rehearsal. I am Hi Aaliyah on all platforms. That's HIAALIYAH Taylor, TAYLOR. Hi Aaliyah Taylor on all platforms. LinkedIn me. You could TikTok me, but I probably won't see it. Instagram me. We can be besties. We can be friends.
Amazing, amazing. And you guys can find me at brooklyn.simone on Instagram, and you can follow Pushing the Pen at pushing.thepen. Thank you guys so much for today's episode and joining us. See you guys next time.
Thank you.